Call to order the Bloomington Historic Preservation Commission meeting for Thursday, February 22nd, 2024. Tonight, I'd like to start off with our commissioners introducing themselves, and we'll start with Ernesto.
Thank you, John. Hello, my name is Ernesto Castaneda. I'm a local architect here in Bloomington, Indiana. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ashley Johnson. I own a local company, First Appraisal Group, and I'm a real estate appraiser.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Hackard. I work at Indiana University as part of University Collections.
Hi, I'm Bill Falk, and I'm retired, but in my previous life, I was a banker, and I worked with historic preservation with both the city of Seattle and Portland.
I'm Sam DeSoller. I am a local architect here. That's it.
Marlene Newman, I'm a local architect, and I designed what used to be the Hiram. What used to be the Hiram.
Give me a minute. Mute it.
Seems to have gotten the same thing.
There we go, thanks. Okay, sorry guys.
Do I have to do this again?
Marlene, yeah?
Okay, I'm an architect, and I designed 555 Morton Street, which is part of the building complex to the north of us. So I've been involved with historic preservation for a long time, and because I'm old, and I've been on this commission 2 times, and I'm on the University Historic Preservation Commission and Indiana Modern.
Thank you, Marlene.
There you go.
I'm Daniel Schlegel. I work at the Monroe County History Center.
Hi, I'm Karen Duffy. I'm retired too, but I'm a folklorist and specializing in material culture, so I have a special place in my heart for old traditional type buildings.
Duncan Campbell, preservation consultant.
All right. And I'm John Saunders. I am a real estate broker. And that's our group here. Noah?
I'm Noah Sandweiss. I'm City of Bloomington Historic Preservation Program Manager as of this February. Anybody else?
I'm Margie Rice.
Yeah,
I'm
let's get
the Corporation Counsel with the City of Bloomington.
Okay. And Eddie?
Yeah, I'm Eddie Wright. I'm hand staff.
And Anna?
I'm Anna Hansen. I'm the Acting Director for Housing and Neighborhood Development. I do want to just remind everyone before we get started that we need to speak respectfully to each other today. There's a lot of items up for debate, and I just want to make sure that we remain respectful.
No worries. We're a good group. Thank you, Anna. Okay.
Okay.
Let's move on to call
Yes?
to order. Yes.
I just wanted to introduce, I'm Gabriel Holbrow. I'm with the City Planning and Transportation Department. Here, if there are any questions about the planning side, the Unified Development Ordinance side of things, just here's a resource. So I'll be quiet unless you ask me anything. Thanks.
Okay.
Before we have roll call, I'd like to mention a few corrections to be made to the packet. There was a mix-up between the addresses on demolition delays 2404 and 2405. So that has been rectified in this presentation. So let me know if that gets confusing, but the addresses have been switched on those 2 DDs. Also, clerical error, the petitioner for demolition delay 2409 will be Alex Rosenberg. I believe that's corrected in the agenda that's been handed out. And next meeting will be on March 14th.
All right. Thank you, Noah. Okay. So let's do the roll call, Eddie.
Okay. Marlene Newman.
Here.
Ernesto Castaneda.
Here.
Daniel Schlegel.
Here.
Sam DeSoller.
Here.
Ashley Johnson.
Here.
John Saunders.
Here.
Elizabeth Mitchell. William Falk.
Here.
Reynard Cross. Duncan Campbell.
Here.
Kirsten Hawley. Karen Duffy.
Here.
Jeremy Hackard.
Here.
Excellent. Sounds like we got everybody. Okay, I need approval for the minutes from January 25th meeting.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you.
Okay, bear with me here. Who motioned and who seconded for that?
Yes, Bill and Daniel.
I'm Daniel.
Okay. Yeah, bear with me here. You got some new people, and this is my first meeting in a while.
You're good.
Okay,
And Falk second.
okay. Okay, Marlene Newman?
Yes.
Ernesto Castaneda?
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel?
Yes.
Sam DeSaller?
Yes.
Ashley Johnson?
Yes.
John Saunders?
Yes.
And William Falk?
Yes.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right. Motion carries. Perfect. All right, let's move on to the beginning of the year, choosing of the chair, the vice chair, and creating a guideline committee, subcommittee, and then, of course, remember to fill out our conflict of interests. So at this point, I will take nominations for the chair, and I'll throw myself out there. I like this position, just so y'all know. I'm listening.
John, I'm good if you want to stay chair.
All right. Okay, so I think we need a motion for that. You motion? Okay.
So you
Then,
motioned?
yeah, Daniel did the motion and Ernesto did it and Daniel seconded. So let's do a roll call on that, Eddie.
Okay. Marlene Newman?
Yes.
Ernesto Castaneda?
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel?
Yes.
Sam DeSaller?
Yes.
Ashley Johnson?
Yes.
John Saunders?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
William Falk?
Yes.
Okay.
Jeremy?
Chair carries 7-0.
Okay. Thank you. All right.
Thank you, John.
So let's see, we need to choose the vice chair. So we need nominations, and I will nominate Sam again.
I'm currently serving, but I would love to see some new blood in here.
Oh, I could use that, but, well, come on, somebody's got to volunteer for that wonderful position as vice chair. Bill?
I think that's cruel.
All right, we have Bill, and we had nominated Sam, so we need a motion.
Yeah, I've been doing this a while, and John's been doing this for a very long while. So I think we need to start breaking in some new people.
Excellent. So we have Bill, who has volunteered and willing to do this, so we need a motion.
I'll make the motion to nominate Bill Falk for HPC Vice Chair.
All right, thank you, Daniel. And we need a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Ashley. All right, we need to take a roll call.
Okay. Marlene Newman?
Yes.
Ernesto Castaneda?
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel?
Yes.
Sam DeSaller?
Yes.
Ashley Johnson?
Yes.
John Saunders?
Yep,
William Falk?
Yes.
very good.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, terrific, thank you. All right, so let's move on to the guidelines subcommittee. So Noah, that's yours.
All right. Would anybody like to join the guideline subcommittee?
And is this for the neighborhoods?
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
This is the,
Wait.
could you describe that?
Position?
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I took some of this presentation from the previous election of officers.
Mhm.
So if there's no neighborhood needing a design review committee, which I don't believe there are any right now, then we can skip that agenda item.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Noah.
Mm-hmm.
And then our yearly conflict of interest forms, if they're available online, I believe, but if we don't have any, we can get them to you. Noah will email them out to
Right.
you.
Let me know if you can't find them, and I can get those out.
All right. Thank you, Noah. All right, so let's move on to our COAs. We have one staff review, and that was COA 24-02, 110 North Walnut Street.
Mm-hmm.
So
This
you
is in
wanna-
the Courthouse Square Historic District. The petitioner is Alex Miracle, who petitioned to install a access ladder on the rear elevation of 110 North Walnut Street. I did not judge the proposed ladder to be damaging to the building's historic materials or have an outsized impact on the building's character-defining features, and it did not violate any guidelines in the district guidelines. So staff provided approval for C of A 2402.
Great. Thank you, Noah.
Here's a picture of the back alley where the ladder is going to be installed, as well as some blueprints which were approved by the city planning department, I believe.
All right, very good. So let's move on to COAs for our review, and we'll start out with 2403. So you want to give us a presentation, Noah?
Mm-hmm. C of A 2403 comes from the Elm Heights Historic District, and unfortunately I have not heard back yet from the Neighborhood Design Review Committee, and because of the number of agenda items, those requests for comment were slow in getting out. But I believe, having reviewed this proposal for an expansion of the existing garage on an outstanding rated house in the Elm Heights district, that while the proposed addition to the garage would be expansive, much of the expanded area would not be in the viewable from the public right-of-way, and the new proposed garage door would face the primary facade, and it does not appear that there is an alternative entry route available from the side of the building. The materials selected for the addition include historic brick that would be reused from the existing garage, which would remain as part of the existing structure. And the front-facing eave, which you'll see in a second on the proposed addition, differentiates the addition from the existing structure as to show its age, but I do not believe that the proposed structure violates other design guidelines for the district. Existing trees that are in the way of the new garage would not be removed, and the expansion of the sidewalk would not the expansion of the driveway would not expand beyond what I believe is allowable or reasonable for the district.
All right, thank you, Noah. Is the petitioner with us?
I'm here, Doug Bruce, to represent Terry Hayes, the petitioner.
Thanks, Doug. Do you have some added information that you want to share with us?
Yeah, I could add a few things. I know you've got a big agenda. I know this has been before the HPC before. I've served on this committee, this HPC when it had. We got a lot of feedback from that, and some things have changed in the past year or so with this owner. It's still the same owner, but the design that you see in front of you, I met with Jenny Southern and two other, I don't have their names here, from the Elm Heights Design Subcommittee. We had a great meeting. We had brought to it, we changed so that we didn't have it, the original proposal, the gable, the addition was a gable facing the street. So this was a way to kind of turn it and again, differentiate the addition from the original. We're reusing the brick that we take off. This is kind of an aging in place situation where we're trying to make a garage that won't fit much more than a large lawnmower into something that will fit his larger vehicle. The lintel, I believe, on the existing garage is cracked and is going to need some work and maybe replacement with limestone in kind. I think the picture you had shown, you can just see it's some settling in the middle from the cracking. But we worked with the Elm Heights Subcommittee, and this was something that they asked us, actually, it got a little larger because we had tried to keep it as small as possible as far as its depth, but it wasn't really gonna fit his SUV, and they said they had no problem with it going back farther, so that's why we increased its size. But this was a direct result out of meeting with them and looking at the Elm Heights guidelines for this type of project for a garage addition, and I think we tried to keep with those ideas in mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. All right, let's do questions. We'll start with Ernesto.
I have no questions at this time, John. Thank
All
you.
right, Ashley,
No questions at this time.
Jeremy,
No questions.
Bill, Sam.
Oh, I got some questions.
Mhm.
So I was trying to read through the drawings, and the packet we got, none of the text is actually legible. So I apologize if it was originally included, but I'm just a little in the dark on a lot of the details here. So there was a conflicting in the text whether or not the existing garage is going to be retained, and in some cases it's talked about tearing down the garage, and in other cases it's talked about the garage addition. So I was wondering if you could clarify what's going to remain on the garage.
Certainly the front facade that you see there, the gable, is going to remain. I think, and maybe there's some discrepancy because of, this has just been 2 or 3 times of looking at this. But there is termite damage along the, I'll say, if you're looking at the drawing on the right-hand side, the front elevation, the existing garage, when you turn the corner between it and the house, there's kind of a patio there now. There's a termite rot along there, and so we don't know how much of that we have to rebuild or not. And then that's going to affect, obviously, what happens with the rest of the garage. But our hope is right now is that as much of it that we can retain, just to keep the cost down and just add on, this addition is the direction we're trying to go with it. The back, I'll say the side that you can't see, the very north of the back wall of this garage has no foundation. It's just on dirt, basically.
Gotcha. And did you ever get a structural report on this one?
Yeah, other than the lintel, I mean, and the termite damage, I mean, it doesn't have to come down. It just depends on how much work we've got to do to try to put the foundation underneath the back part. That's where we're adding on, so I think that'll solve that. But the lintel is the only thing that worries us.
Gotcha.
And we're gonna, any of the brick that we take off, and there's a little bit of brick on the sides, that we're gonna use that on the front portion to match. And then we're gonna go with right now the garage has a vertical, like a board and batten on the back and part of the side, so we're just gonna continue with that pattern.
Gotcha. So the addition to the side is, the wing that comes out, that's board and batten around?
That's right.
Okay. And so the portion that's going to remain brick is the front facade, that little wall, and whatever else you can salvage.
That's right. As much brick as we can salvage. And then the other, and that came from, we had turned the corner with some of the brick on the addition, and the Elm Heights Subcommittee said they really, I didn't like the look of it, and they felt the same way, so we took that out. And then we tried to show them at what point we were going to, the ribbon sidewalk, the ribbon drive up to it. Again, it's kind of up a hill and then it flattens off, and so we've obviously got to pour some concrete to make an area to pull into that other garage. So we're trying to minimize, we tried to show on our drawing the maximum amount of that ribbon we would take out closer to the garage where we'd be pouring more concrete.
Gotcha. I think that covers me for now. Thanks, Doug.
Okay.
Marlene, Daniel,
No questions.
Karen,
No question.
Duncan. I don't have any questions. Are there any questions from the public? And any questions from our Zoom folks? Okay. Let's move to comments. No comments, Ernesto, Ashley, Jeremy, Bill, Sam.
Yeah. I like this one a lot better than I've liked previous ones. I think that it reads, the original garage reads through, which I think is very important. I'm a bit concerned that we haven't heard back from the neighborhood on this one. But given what they're trying to do and what they've got going on, this is a big improvement.
Thanks, Sam. Marlene?
No comment.
Dana? Karen? Duncan? Do we have any comments from the public? Do we have any comments from our Zoom folks? Okay, hearing no comments, I need a motion to approve COA 2403.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you.
I'll
Second, thank you, Bill. All right, Eddie, take the roll. Yeah.
Marlene Newman,
Yes.
Ernesto Castaneda, Daniel Schlegel,
Yes.
Sam DeSaller,
Yes.
Ashley Johnson,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
William Falk.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, terrific. Thanks, Doug.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, let's move on to COA 24-04, 1020 West 6th Street. And is our petitioner with this?
Yes, yes. Doug Bruce again, and my client Neil Patzner is also here as well.
All right, great. Thank you, Doug. Okay. Noah?
This certificate of appropriateness is for a non-contributing structure in the near West Side Historic District. The request, in summation, is to add a front porch and a second story to the duplex, which will also be re-sided. By and large, the alterations, as were presented in the proposal, meet the guidelines of the near West Side Historic District. The footprint and parking areas will remain unchanged, and the second added story will not exceed the district height limit of 30 feet. Proposed changes to the orientation of the front entrance and plans for the new porch, as well as the proposed siding and roofing materials, follow district guidelines. The style for the altered building is minimal and does not clash with its neighbors. Staff recommends approval of COA 2404, but suggests some amendments, including replacement of vinyl porch railings with a more appropriate material, such as wood, and a street-facing orientation for the porch stairs. We heard back from a member of the design subcommittee on this project who expressed some concerns about communication, and as well as their opinion on vinyl porch railings. We do have a member of that committee who's with us tonight, if they care to provide any more comments. And I can move on to showing you some of the proposed plans. So this is a couple of elevations, the non-contributing structure as it exists now, and plans for changes to the porch and the elevation. Okay, that's a different one.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And I'm not sure if you can see it because it's kind of small on there. The plan has details for some of the lattice to be included under the new porch, as well as details about, I believe it's cement fiber siding. Okay.
Thanks. Doug, do you have any additional information for us?
Sure. A few things. Thank you. Again, this is a non-contributing structure. It is in the near West Side neighborhood. The initial proposal a year ago or so was kind of a two-story like this, but it didn't really have a front porch. And what's interesting, you can see the existing building, the picture there on the top left. There's not a window or a porch facing the street. It's kind of an oddball, an ugly duckling. And the entry doors, it's a duplex currently on a single floor, basically a ranch over a crawl space. And the issue that we've been fighting here was that the right-of-way and the setback for this area only gives us about 4 feet or so off that brick face towards the street to do anything. So we were kind of limited. We started to work with a second story and just kind of some windows and a little porch that you would only access. It was only 3 feet wide that you would access just to sit on, but you couldn't really access from the duplex. And we went and met with the near West Side Neighborhood Committee, and they, again, while they think that this is pretty ugly as it sits, they had some good feedback on trying to carve out some space within the building. And I spoke to my client, who, again, he's here. That's going to be quite a bit more costly, but we're going to carve out a porch space and make an entry for both units, which is a little more traditional for a 2-story type home, where we'll have a porch and then we'll have an entry door to a staircase to a second level and an entry door to the main level, and split the units that way instead of sharing them on half the building. But again, we added the porches as much as we can. We would love to have the stairs face the street, but we would have to get approval from Board of Public Works to do so. I certainly wouldn't mind looking at doing that and coming off the porch that way. The only issue is that we're kind of chasing grade because it drops significantly towards the street. So the stairs might come all the way down to the sidewalk, and I don't know if that's the kind of thing that Public Works would let us do. So we have a porch on it, but we're going out to the side. First off, because the parking is also at the back for this building, but because of right-of-ways and setbacks. We changed from vinyl after meeting with the subcommittee to a hardy plank cement board. I don't see any problem changing the railing. And the lattice under the porch is part of the guidelines that's allowed. So, you know, the guidelines try to emphasize having a porch facing the street, having windows and doors facing the street, allowing for cement board siding. So those are all things that we were trying to do on this project.
Thank you, Doug.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do questions. Ernesta.
I have questions at this time. Thank you.
Ashley.
No questions.
Jeremy.
No question.
Phil.
No question.
Sam.
What have we heard from the neighborhood?
I can go back to the neighborhood comments.
Don't we have the representative?
We do. We have
Yes,
Peter
we do.
Dorfman here.
Yeah, Peter.
Now,
Yeah, go ahead and we'll
Peter
let you-
Dorfman, I head the Neighborhood Design Review Committee. This past week, we heard about this project, or this version of the project, for the first time on Monday. So that's 3 days advance notice. This is not sufficient time for us to get our committee together to meet on this application. I emailed several members of the commission who I happen to have emails for, asking that this item be removed from this week's agenda, for the simple reason that our process, the Historic Preservation Commission has been very respectful of our guidelines and of our the advice that we've offered from the committee. I'm here to ask that we get some similar respect for our process. We weren't able to exercise our process this week because we just didn't have notice. This, by the way, is a long-standing problem that we have faced. I had a conversation, if I can just address Anna for a moment, with your predecessor about 18 months ago about this. We frequently get very little notice, and we are trying to function like a committee, and we have a schedule that we try to keep to. We try to meet first and third Mondays of every month if we have anything to discuss. 3 days notice, especially when one of those days is a holiday, it's just not sufficient. So I would really strongly reiterate my request that this item be taken off this week's agenda. If you can't do that, on behalf of the committee, I'll tell you exactly what I think of this committee. of this application. Can we first discuss the possibility of deferring a decision on this?
I have a question, if I can ask it. Can I ask a question?
Yes,
Follow-up
please,
question?
Chairman.
Is there a set amount of time that you have in your committee for how much time or how much notice you need to review something?
I'd love a month, but we're not going to get a month apparently, but I don't really see how we can function with less than 2 weeks' notice.
Well, I was just asking, do you have something like that's written down of, we always need 2 weeks or something along those lines?
I guess I could express this by saying, we don't feel as an advisory group that we have authority to tell you how you should operate as a commission.
No, I'm just asking.
As I
if
say,
you guys had something.
I don't think we've ever had an opportunity to say, this is what we need. We're one of 13 districts.
Sure.
So, is it possible to discuss the idea of removing this item from the agenda for this week? I don't know the procedure.
Doug has said that he has met with you folks.
Yes, we met with Doug on October 30th. We had a terrific meeting, I thought.
Does this not, I'd be curious to hear what your comments are, because I thought from that meeting, this pretty much covered everything that we had.
I'll be happy to give you my comments. I wish I'd had an opportunity weeks ago to tell you what, then we wouldn't be here tonight.
And my client's here, and so we could certainly ask him if a month's gonna hurt him, if he wanted to set it back so that we could meet, but I certainly want to defer that to my client as well.
Okay, I'm prepared to tell you what I think, but can we at least give me feedback on whether there is a process to remove it?
Petitioner, whether or not they want to withdraw this from our meeting at this point. So I think what we need to do is still continue the discussion and take a vote and see if the commission wants to deny it for right now and bring it back for another meeting. Just so you know, Peter, that when we get a COA, when we get a petitioner, they have to notify us only 2 weeks before our commission meeting.
Is it possible for you to let us know
So
when they
that's
notify you?
within the guidelines. Now, I've asked Noah, because we talked about this yesterday, that when we get a petition, to send out the information right away to the subcommittees so they have an opportunity to review them and get back to us.
That's something that we discussed as a possibility, and it's something I can look at going forward, but it would mean possibly a change in staff policy.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, given that there's no process to remove this, I will give you my feedback. Again, I'm speaking on behalf of a committee that didn't have an opportunity to meet. But I'll tell you what I think. And let me preface this by saying, if this was an application for someone to make a minor modification to a chimney or something, we wouldn't have this problem with it. But this house is not just a non-contributing structure. This is everything that a near West Side house should not be. The orientation is wrong, the setback is wrong, the style is wrong. Essentially, everything that makes a house compatible with the contributing houses around it is wrong with this structure. We've had our eyes on it for years, waiting to hear whether somebody was going to do a renovation on this. So it's a big issue for the neighborhood. We believe a conscientious renovation could bring this into some level of compatibility with the neighborhood. The meeting that we had on October 30th with Doug gave us an indication that maybe the applicant was moving in that direction. But as is, this application does not meet any measure of compatibility with the neighborhood. The new facade that's being proposed is not compatible with surrounding buildings. We're fine with hardy board, although we really like to see the specific material that we're choosing. We recommend against a cement material that tries to imitate wood grain. So we are interested in knowing we refer to that very directly in our guidelines. So we'd like to know what material is being proposed, but that's so almost beside the point. The porch is too narrow. We have many houses in the neighborhood that have porches. Most of the houses in the neighborhood are gabled L's. We have some that are partial porches, not extending across the front, the entire front, but that's because the porch bumps up against the L. We do not have, as far as we're aware, anything that could be a compatible or contributing structure that's only a partial porch like this. It just stops. And the porch is supposed to have a practical function in a compatible house in the near west side. It's deep enough to sit down, have a conversation. This is 4 feet wide. There's no room to do anything. So what it looks like is just, it's been pasted on to this flat surface in a minimal attempt at some form of visual compatibility. It has no functional compatibility with the houses in the neighborhood. And the porch is completely overwhelmed by the mass of the house. It just looks like it's stapled onto a structure that really doesn't call for one. The entry to the porch is from the side. And that's inconsistent with the other houses in the neighborhood. It would be still unique within the context. And the neighboring houses, near west side houses, the porches invite entry from the street. And you just heard Doug lay out some potential issues associated with that. But nevertheless, in order to be compatible, it should invite entry from the street. Instead, this porch is inviting entry from the rear of the house where the parking area is. So we have a car-focused decision to overrule a historic preservation priority because the cars are being parked in the back. The front door, which is all the way over to the left, is completely out of character with other houses in the neighborhood. It violates the predominant symmetry of near west side gabled L houses. We don't have purview over the back of the house. That's a choice that we made as a design review committee. It was part of our promise to the neighborhood that we would have a light touch. But I'm just going to comment on this anyway. No doors or windows? Is that even acceptable from a fire safety perspective?
Which image are you referring to?
The new north elevation. It's the very back of the house.
I don't see actually on this slide the north elevation.
Okay,
I don't
well,
know if that's something that the architect might be able to comment on.
I believe it's in the meeting packet.
It is in the
It's in the
It
meeting
should
packet.
be, it should be in the packet. I'll have some reasoning for you here, some answers for you.
Okay.
It's on page 42 of the packet.
So, I mean, we have these objections, or I have these objections on which I'm offering on behalf of the Design Review Committee. And I guess I could sum it up by saying our recommendation is don't grant this COA. It does not meet compatibility, even minimal compatibility with the neighborhood. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Peter. So Doug, would you guys be willing to withdraw your petition to the next meeting?
Well, I'd have to talk to the client. I will say, addressing some of the comments, when you look at the guidelines, it meets the guidelines as written. It might not meet Mr. Dorfman's ideas on some of these guidelines, but like his comment about the rear of the building that is not in the guidelines at all. And again, short of us tearing this house down, I mean, it's a non-contributing structure that we're trying to add a porch to that we can't make it any deeper than we've made it. We have a setback and a right-of-way, and that's where we're stuck. And we sit up tall, again, as I mentioned, up on a hill. We were at grade where I could, add 2 or 3 steps into the right-of-way. We might get Public Works approval for that. If Public Works would give us approval to do a wider, again, and we meet the setbacks of the other houses along the block, so that's the problem. If the other houses were much closer, usually Public Works might give us approval for that. But short of tearing this down, And we've gone from vinyl siding to cement board. We mention on the drawings that it is smooth board, not a wood grain type board. We don't have windows in the back because this is a small footprint. We're trying to save a house that's there instead of continuing to tear something down that you might not like and have your eyes on for years, but this has been sitting there as an ugly duckling for years, and I think it's not a precedent for anything else that's built. This is one of the few it is absolutely ugly. It doesn't go with anything that's there. And so what we're trying to do is use the guidelines for adding a porch. I've tried to talk why we can't add the front entry, but I will disagree with you when you say that the front porch has no purpose. The front porch has a purpose of entry, and both of these units, which right now enter on the side of the house facing an alley, we've now put their front doors facing the street. So there may not be room for someone to put a chair and sit, but this is certainly the entry where the pedestrians will enter and exit this house. So I don't know what more we could change. Now, if my client wants to, if we want to look and see if Public Works, given what this neighborhood wants us to do, would grant a wider porch, and my client wants to put this off even more, I'll let Neil address that.
And Neil's here.
He's my client, yes.
Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Well, that was a question.
Yes.
So I guess, so you've got 2 units, one's upstairs, one's down?
In the proposal, right now they're side by side.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just talking about what you're proposing, apologies. And then they both enter through the door on the north exterior?
If you look at the plan, there's 2 doors now. So we're kind of doing the old, there's a lot of old houses that'll have one door where you enter into a little kind of a landing, and then you go up the stairs to that unit, and then the other door takes you to the ground floor unit.
And so, okay, so it carves into so the porch actually carves into the...
That's right. We took out as much space as we could inside the existing footprint to try to make the porch deeper at that point for an entry. Because we couldn't go out any wider than we did. So when we can't go out any wider, then that limits how much gable and how much roof we can put over that porch. So that's why the house may be 2 stories, the porch roof can only, we only have so much porch to work with.
I hear you. Right.
It's been the setback in the right-of-way that's kept this house the way it has been.
Gotcha. Thank you. No more questions.
So Neil?
So I bought this property as an investment, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm a person that, it was ugly, it was set as a duplex, and what we're trying to do is make it look into a better, try to find the guidelines of make it better. I'll be honest with you, if this doesn't pass, we are moving this to Section 8. We're renting it as 2-bedroom apartments, and Section 8 people are gonna be in here. If that's what he wants, that's fine, because we're done spending enough money. I'm dumping a lot of money trying to get this look to a house that meets the standards, and I'll be honest with you, we got people living in there right now that they're paying under the thing, and we are ready to move them out and get Section 8 in there. We'll redo it. That's because it is already, there's nothing they can do to stop me to doing this, because it's already set for this. I've already spent enough time and enough money on this trying to make it to look good for the neighborhood. If that's the way they want it, then I am not proceeding past this moment.
So you don't want to withdraw your petition at
No.
this point? You want us to go ahead and move forward?
It's going to be his option
What's his
of letting it get better built or leaving as is,
But it's
and
not his option, it'll be our
your option.
Correct. Okay, that's what I want to know. So let's move forward, and we'll go to questions, and we'll move forward and take a vote on the COA. So, Ernesto, do you have any questions?
I have many questions. I'm just trying to figure out which one I can start with. I'm gonna pass for now.
All right, that's fine. Ashley?
Again, this is my first meeting, so forgive me if this is
No worries.
a bad question, but of all of the issues that were just discussed by the neighborhood, I was just curious as to what of those issues is included in this proposal. Because the building's there as it is today. So, you know, they're adding the second story, there's a porch, and I'm just curious, how many of those comments relate to what we're looking at, whether, as opposed to what's there today that isn't being changed?
I don't have an answer for you. Peter?
Yeah, all of the comments that I offered were on the new design, not on the old design.
Upstairs. Thank you. Does that help you, Ashley? Okay. Jeremy?
So in October, it seemed like there was a decent amount of agreement as to what was going on. So I guess I'm curious as to, you made what you thought were the changes that they were looking for, but now that you have seen these changes, you're thinking actually they didn't hear you?
Yeah, the idea of adding a porch was suggested by a member of our committee who happens to be an architect. And I think what we anticipated was a deeper porch. You know, one that is functional in the way that porches in the near west side are functional. This does not meet the expectations that meeting left us with.
Were there specifics given for that, or was it just we need a deeper porch?
Actually, there were specifics at the time. I don't have them with me documented in any form, but we suggested a deeper functional porch.
At that time, I said, I had the site drawing. This was as deep as we could get. But the idea was, and it was Bob Meadows?
Bob Meadows.
Yeah, Bob Meadows, who's an architect, and he had suggested carving out into the building to create this entry. Now, I had a site drawing, and it clearly shows our setbacks and our right-of-ways. We can't make this porch any deeper. It's like asking us to build over a property line. We can't do that.
We never suggested that you push outward. We suggested you push inward.
I think the real issue is that you want us to turn it back to a single-family home.
Wait a minute. That's fine, Neil. We're just discussing this right now, but thank you. Okay, thank you, Peter. Jeremy, is your question okay? All right. Bill?
Yeah, so Doug, if I can ask you a question.
Yeah.
So the current, I'm a little fuzzy on the current structure. It's a side-by-side duplex. And what you're changing it to is an up and down type of a duplex?
Yeah, so the initial idea is that it's a side-by-side, and we were going to do a second story with two-story duplexes with each their own internal staircase, because we just didn't think we had any room to add a porch at all along the front. As we got more, we had Neil had a survey done. City planning suggested we had a survey done, so we had a survey to find where the property line was, so we knew where the right-of-way and setback. Once we did that, this design came about of having two entries, but now instead of a side-by-side, one entry will be for a first floor unit, the second floor will be, so it's an existing duplex, it'll stay a duplex, but each will be on their own floor.
And I assume it's not on a basement now, so
It's on a crawl space. It's
so
about 3 or 4 feet.
you're looking at excavating down to put in the bottom floor, or you're building up?
The bottom, the main level now stays as, instead of 2 units, it'll be the 1 unit, and then we're adding a second floor. We're tearing off the roof structure and adding a second floor.
So it seems like, and I'm assuming you did a cost comparison between doing what you're presenting here versus actually removing the building and setting a new building in place.
Yes, yes.
And it was significant delta between those two?
Yes.
Okay.
That's why you know, initially this was a vinyl sided addition, and we spent more money going to cement board and other things, but we're at a limit where there's again, no return on it. It's non-contributing stuff.
Thank you.
Okay. Sam?
I had my questions earlier. I opened up the can of worms with that one.
Thank you. Hey, Marlene?
So I just have a question. When you look at the facade, it looks kind of like a colonial that faces the street, kind of, which is probably not necessarily common in that neighborhood. But you might think about, instead of putting the porch on the front where you don't have enough room because the setbacks. I know, I'm getting to that. So I'm wondering if there isn't a way to consider a side entry porch, a side entry colonial, like of the type that one would see in Charleston, and that way you'd have something that would look from the front like it had a porch, but you could have a sidewalk that went down to the street that would be, and then you'd have a porch that would have a functional size.
Oh, that's a question for Doug.
Yep.
Isn't that what we started out with?
Yeah, we had we might not have had a, we
I'm
were
talking about
keeping this.
two-story side entry porch like they have in Charleston. It's a classic,
Yeah, the guidelines and every, you know, the first discussion that comes up was this needed, any work we do to this is adding an entry and a porch on the front facing the street.
Well,
And that's,
right, I
yeah.
get it, but given the parameters.
I guess the answer to your question is that's why we didn't though. We didn't look at anything else. At one point, we were gonna keep the entry on the side where we were. It wasn't a two-story entry, but we were keeping that entry there and splitting the units. If we enter in the mid-unit, these are kind of two-story duplexes.
Are you familiar with the Charleston?
Yeah, I
side
love
entry?
Charleston. I love Savannah.
Okay,
Yes.
the side entry
yeah.
colonials might be a good model.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Okay,
That's
thank
all.
you. Daniel, any questions?
I think like Ernesto, I have some, but I think mine have been answered, but I'll pause for a moment.
Okay, that's fine. Karen?
I don't have any questions. We're still going to do comments,
We
right?
will get to that.
Yeah, no questions.
Duncan, questions?
So Doug, did you carve out part of the front facade in order to create the entrance this way?
Yes.
So the furthest extending facade to the street is part of the original building?
No, so we have, I think, 3 or 4 feet of room on the front. So we are adding 4 feet on the front. Is there a floor plan in the packet?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see.
That's what I'm looking at.
So, and then we carved out a space to make it wider at the entry. We don't really have much more room to carve out any more space. So the porch that you see that you see the front of this porch is 4 feet in front of the existing house, and then we carved out a little notch to have the entry doors and a little more area at the entry. But as you can see, by the time you add a stair and you carve this space out, there's not much space left to eat up to make this a functional, you know, a floor plan that'll work. These aren't oversized bedrooms and you know, oversized living. This is a small footprint that we're trying to stay within.
No, I was just trying to establish if you came closer to the street with the new construction, but you didn't.
Yeah. Only the front of the porch as far as we could go.
All right, thanks. I haven't got any questions.
We can, Ernesto still has some?
Yes.
Ernesto?
May I?
Yes.
I see what you guys did in terms of following the guidelines, but just the fact that it's a full story on top of this, the way I agree with Mr. Dorfman. Thank you very much. It just seems that it aggravated the situation even more by having this full story on top, and then the roof structure even makes it even taller. Have you guys thought about story and a half, perhaps?
We're still within the height limit. And
I understand that.
Yeah, and a story and a half, again, we're adding costs that we just can't recover. The house will sit like it is. I mean, that's what I'm up against, is how much money we spend on this, how it sits as it is.
I agree with Marlene that there might be a solution by having a side porch. That's common too. There's a house on, I believe it's on 6th Street, almost 6th Street and Maple on the north side of the street, that it has some similar situation here. Of course, that house was the original farmhouse of the neighborhood. So I agree with you. This is not the most attractive building that was built in the 60s, probably. I don't know. It's just not a great solution. That's all I have to say.
So, do we have any questions from the public? Okay. And any questions from our Zoom folks? No. Okay, not hearing any. Let's go to comments. And we'll start with Ernesto on the comments.
Yeah, I think I said part of my comments on my trying to get a question there. Yeah, I agree with Mr. Dorfman. I don't see this. I understand the owner's position as well. I just think it aggravates the injury with this. That's all I have to say.
All right, thanks, Ernesto.
Yes.
No comment.
Jeremy? Bill?
So I guess my comment would be along the lines with Ernesto, that it's not a great solution, but we don't have a lot to work with either. I think we've got an owner of the property who's willing to invest in it, otherwise it's going to sit in its current condition for an extended period of time. So I thank you for attempting to improve the site. And I thank Doug for trying to put something together that would work on the site. But it's a difficult one. But at the end of the day, as a committee, if we don't approve it, it's going to sit like this in the conditions it's in.
Sam?
Comments? I want to concur with Bill. I mean, I hear that the process has not been what the neighborhood wanted. We're, it's imperfect. We're breaking in a new staff member, hopefully gently. And it's, at the best of times, we get a week to look at the stuff before we arrive here. We do encourage petitioners to talk to the neighborhoods prior to the meetings with every iteration. And this happened to some degree on this project, but not to the degree that the neighborhood wanted. And we actually don't have the power to pull stuff off the agenda unless the petitioner concurs. Sounds like the petitioner is at the end of his rope, and the choice is, do we let it sit like this, or do we approve what's proposed? This, the building is an ugly duckling. It's anomalous in several ways, both in terms of how it's sited, how it addresses the street, and just how it connects with the neighborhood. And he can't move it, so he's working with it, something that is substandard from the get-go. So recognizing those kinds of constraints and handicaps in this case, I think, are important. He's using smooth siding to emulate wood. He's carved out some extra room at the porch. I agree it's not a great place to hang out, but he's doing what he can do, and the site is not helping much. But given a choice between the sort of 60s brick guy and this, it's not a hard choice for me. So I will support this petition.
All right, thank you, Sam. Marlene?
Well, I think with just a few little changes to the elevation, it would look so much better. I mean, the windows are all, they look like they were thrown on from a catalog, and none of them seem to match, and they don't, I mean, you've got kind of a colonial facade here. So make it more regular, make it more palatable to the neighborhood. The porch looks like it was stuck on, and it doesn't necessarily need to be stuck on. You could add some columns or a little roof on the outside or something to make it look, because it does get to a point. I can't read the drawings, but it seems like it's a 5 foot. How deep is it, Doug?
I want to say it's 4 feet. Yeah,
well,
I
but
don't
you
think-
carved
yeah,
in.
yeah.
You carved in, right? So you have
I
4
carved in, yeah.
So you have 4 feet out plus.
In that area,
Yeah,
not
that's-
all of the porch, yeah.
7 feet, 3.5 inches.
So, 7 feet 3?
3.5 inches.
So that's enough space to have a person sit and be, sort of, address the street, which is what you're kind of looking at. But I think that the elevations themselves are they're not helping. And I don't think it would be a hard thing, since it's new construction on the top, I don't think it would be hard to make it look a lot better than it does. And then to take, I mean, it's kind of telling that there aren't really any great pictures of the buildings to the side of it, but I think the porches have a certain character that this one lacks. And I mean, you see those, and maybe it's just the drawing, but I think that there are ways to have detailed that thing to make it look better and to regularize the windows, because, I mean, there's no window over the stair on the second floor. That's a missed opportunity to make it look like a, make it look more like a regular colonial kind of facade. I think part of the problem is that it's just this, it's just a pastiche of things that don't go with each other, even within the confines of the facade. Never mind that it's, so I don't know, I guess I would choose a type and try to mimic the type, the regular window patterns, the window proportions, and do something with the detailing of the porch instead of making it look like it's stuck onto it.
Thank you, Marlene.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
That's what I think.
All right. Daniel, any comments?
No, just I think this is a tough situation with the location and what they've been given to work with, so.
Thank you, Daniel. Karen?
Well, I kind of have two hats as I sit here. I'm an advisory member of the committee, of the commission, but I'm also a member of the Near West Side Neighborhood Committee and Design Review Committee, and met with Mr. Bruce in October. My memory isn't perfect by any means, but my memory, it was, as Peter said, a terrific meeting, and Mr. Bruce was very receptive to the ideas that were presented, and I have a clear memory of the setback problem. The property, the building, is kind of at a funny angle anyway, and that doesn't help the limit that he has on that right-hand side of the building. So, that was a limit, and from what I remember of that committee meeting, I would say my response, personal response, because Peter said he's speaking for himself, and we didn't have a meeting, and maybe I would be outvoted if we did have a meeting, but my response is he went a long way to meet our suggestions and requests and to make the best of, to kind of beef up not beef up, that's a mixed metaphor, but beautify this ugly duckling as much as possible.
Thank you, Karen. Duncan?
Yeah, this is troublesome in a lot of ways, but the thing that sort of strikes me first is that this kind of discussion of the building that's there as an ugly duckling. And I know if you talk about the context of this particular neighborhood, which predates this 60s sideways ranch by a decade, or I mean several decades, it makes it, I can agree with the notion that it's a very hard, difficult thing to transfer one thing into another and still get something that ends up being compatible with the neighborhood. On the other hand, I'm not as willing to blame the original building. If this were a mid-century modern neighborhood, we'd be protecting this building. And so it's difficult as a professional preservationist to justify altering one very recognizable style of architecture and into something else that is now not recognizable as very much. And I don't see how that, I don't know of the preservation ethic that actually supports that activity. I'd almost rather see the house left there the way it is and let it speak to its own era, even if it's anomalous to the neighborhood, than I would create something that's not really much better. And I'm not the only person at this table who thinks this isn't much better. I agree with Marlene that there's some architectural tweaks available here that could very well make this better. And I think for that reason, it's worth denying it and pushing it back to the petitioner to see if those things can't be worked out, especially worked out with the neighborhood. And I very much support what Peter's talking about. This has been a recurring issue over and over, and there's no blame to our new administration or new staff members, but we have to find a way to make, we are dependent on these neighborhood committees to help us make certain decisions, and we believe in their guidelines, we support them, we create a situation in which those guidelines are created, and then to not create the opportunity to use that reference is wrong. And we have to make sure that they get this information, if anything, well ahead of us.
Yeah.
We're the people who see this stuff all the time. So, that has to happen. And that's another reason that I think this could be, if I were a voting member, I would deny it, send it back to the petitioner, and ask them to work on this facade and make it better, because it's not good. And it doesn't speak, it isn't compatible on the one hand, and in that regard, it isn't any less compatible than the thing that's there already. And I get the conundrum. It's a problem. There isn't anybody here who doesn't know that it is. But the solution is a better design. That's the solution.
Thank you, Doug. Do we have any?
May I, as staff, make a comment about that timing?
Absolutely,
Okay,
Margie.
so our code says that if an application for a certificate of appropriateness is approved by the commission or is not acted on by the commission within 30 days after it's filed, a certificate of appropriateness shall be issued. So once it's filed by staff, there's a time that is clock that's ticking. And so I want to be sensitive to the fact that it isn't staff's, I mean, they've got to act within a certain time. The time for the conversation that you all may be wanting, that would be great to have, would be for the property owner to engage in that conversation before filing the petition for a CBA, and come here only after they've had those conversations. Because once Noah gets it, or Anna gets it, they've got to get it in front of you to act within 30 days or it gets granted.
The 30 days is 30 days. We heard that they heard 3 days.
Yeah, I'm just saying that there is a time constraint, and you guys meet monthly, as I understand it, right?
No,
So-
we meet
right, so-
twice a month.
Twice a month. Okay, so let's have a conversation with staff and perhaps with some HPC members, maybe the leadership, about what to do. But I just want to be sensitive to the fact that there's some statutory requirements.
We do have a procedure that recommends that the petitioner meet with staff prior to setting a date for the meeting.
Yeah.
That's a perfectly legitimate time to do what we're talking about doing.
Yeah.
There is no real time constraint in the 30-day cycle. It just has to be made to happen. And it's been the intention that hasn't been there. I'm not blaming anybody, it's just that the intention hasn't been there. So what I'm saying tonight is we need to make that intention clear and make sure this doesn't happen again, because first of all, it makes the meeting too long. Second of all, it upsets the neighborhood that we're dependent upon, and it doesn't always lead to good solutions. So it doesn't work at all.
Right.
And that needs to be corrected.
Go ahead.
This might be a legal question. Right now, there's a 2-week lead time to submit before a meeting. So if you submit, you have to submit your materials to get on the agenda 2 weeks before. If we track that back, are there legal hurdles that we'll have to do to track that back?
You mean if you want to change your guidelines?
If we want to extend that 2 weeks to like 3 weeks or 30 days?
You know, I think I'd want to talk with staff about your internal workings, about practically.
I do have some questions about that, I have to
Yeah.
admit, and if we can find a way where I can send out those requests for comments earlier, then I think that would be a great solution.
Yeah, so if you guys, you know, Sam and Duncan, if you want to join with staff and we can work out something, I think everybody's got the same goal. We just have to figure out how to get there.
All right. Thank you, Margie. Okay, do we have any comments from the public? No? And do we have any comments from the Zoom folks? All right, thank you. So I need a motion to approve or to deny this COA.
Motion approved.
One second.
Okay. Eddie, we have a, want to do the roll call?
Okay. Marlene Newman,
No.
Ernesto Castaneda,
No.
Daniel Schlegel,
No.
Sam DeSaller,
Yes.
Ashley Johnson,
Yes.
John Saunders,
No.
William Falk.
Yes.
I think I got everybody.
Jeremy?
Jeremy?
Oh, Jeremy, I apologize.
Oh, right.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I got everyone that's here. Okay. Motion denied, 4-3.
All right. Thank you, Eddie. Doug?
Thanks.
Go back and if you need some more guidance, get with us.
Thank you.
I mean, maybe we can come up with something for us. Thank you, Doug. Thank you for coming. Okay, let's move on to COA 24-05, 620 South Ballantyne.
The certificate of appropriateness is for the proposal of the installation of a new fence. In staff's opinion, this fence would meet district guidelines in terms of materials, design, and position relative to the house. It would not obscure this outstanding ranking house's historic characteristics, and staff recommends approval. You can see here, not the clearest, in the top left corner, the blue rectangle indicates the property boundary, and you can see the red lines indicate where the petitioner would propose to install the new fence. There is a image in the upper right hand corner of a fence that looks like the kind that the petitioner plans to install, and we have images of the yard of the property from various angles.
Okay, thanks, Noah. Mr. Carnes, are you with us? Yes. And do you have some more additional information for us?
No, I won't be taking in any major trees or anything like that. There might be some brush removal, you know, just to put the fence in. That's it. It's mostly for containment of a pet.
I do want to tell you one thing. I do like how the columns got restored.
Oh,
Thank you very much.
okay.
That looks very
That was the
good.
previous owner.
I know, but you're there now.
Yeah.
And thank you for getting that done. Okay, so let's do questions. Ernesto?
Yeah. Within the design guidelines of the neighborhood, are there any specific wood species for fences, or is?
The design guidelines just specify wood or metal. It's going to be a wood fence, yes. Probably most likely pressure treated wood, yeah.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay.
Ashley?
No question.
Jeremy?
Question?
Bill? Sam?
Couple of questions. Is this a 6-foot fence all the way everywhere?
Yes, it is.
So I have a question for planning. Because this is a corner lot, is there a 4-foot height restriction relative to the property line?
You are completely correct. When I was looking at it before, I was not recognizing that it was a corner lot. The fence standards for corner lots are confusing, so I don't want to speak off the top of my head what exactly it is on this facade, but it's less than 6 feet.
Yeah, so my understanding of corner lots is like, it's like you can go put a fence 4 foot forward of the to build line, but it has to be no more than 4 feet high. Well, it's a little bit nutty.
It's a little bit nutty.
Yeah.
We can't be 6 feet here. So
Yeah, so that's.
I apologize for not noticing that earlier, and I'm glad you pointed that out.
That's a concern. And then as far as, and then the guidelines sort of combine in with that, because it's a corner lot, does that midpoint of the facade hit both of the street front facades? I hope not, because there's like nowhere else to fence. But, okay, so I guess my question then is, what have we heard from the neighborhood on this one, or have we heard anything?
I have not heard back from the neighborhood yet.
Okay.
If there's anybody who's on the Elm Heights committee who'd like to speak.
Okay.
All right, Sam.
That exhausts my questions, thank you.
Thank you. Marlene.
Sam's the fence guy, so no
Okay.
questions.
Daniel.
No, I don't think I have any.
And Karen.
No.
All right. And Duncan.
I have a question for Sam, because I still don't understand how this violates the rule, if you do.
It's not the hang on a sec.
I mean, what's the corner lot consideration? I know that it's different, but maybe.
Give me a sec, I'll get it.
Maybe our planner's running for information, I don't know.
Yeah.
Give me a sec.
I mean, I guess my question is, what would have to change to make it conform?
I think you gotta drop the height in certain locations to 4 feet, and given that you're trying to fence in an animal, I don't know that that is actually gonna help, be a useful fence at that point. So I just wanna my question was directed to make sure that it complies with the 80, the planning code prior to us like giving our blessing to it.
Well, in the Elm Heights design guidelines, there's nothing that specifies 4 feet or 6 feet.
No, it's a
It
planning
just
code.
specifies location.
Yeah.
So I'm not talking about the height relative to Elm Heights guidelines. I'm talking about the height relative to planning and zoning, because, if planning and zoning says no, it's still no. And I just don't want us to say, oh, we approve this anyway.
Right.
I just want to sort of, it's more of a courtesy because we have no purview, but my question relative to the guidelines was, is all at the midpoint of the front or street-facing facade.
Right.
And in that case, it's pretty squirrely, because you're a corner lot with outbuildings.
You have 2 street-facing facades.
Yeah. So that's kind of why I wanted neighborhood feedback to see how they interpret it, because
Right. Well,
I got no problems with your fence, but I'm like,
the house it sits at a high, when you're coming up university comes up on a hill. And the house actually would be sitting above the fence, and observing the fence, So it's not blocking the view of the house from either the back side or the front side, so.
So I guess, since I still have the floor, I didn't really get an answer that
I'm looking it up.
I'm satisfied
It's a little
with.
slow. I'm
Well,
sorry.
and planning's back. Can
Oh,
you-
sorry, I stepped out. Was there a question about the standards? Let me actually find them.
That would be great, because that hurt my head when I looked at it.
For corner lot, forward of the building's setback line, it cannot exceed 4 feet. So the building setback line here is,
It's R3.
it's R3.
R3 is front build to 15 feet or the median front setback of budding residential structures, whichever is less.
So it's 15 feet because the structure to the west is similarly, so it's approximately 20 feet from the building, existing building to the front property line along University. So in the first 15 feet from the property line, from the front property line, it can be no higher than 4 feet. And then in the remaining 5 feet to the building, it can be, 8 feet, except that portions above 5 feet must be of open construction.
Okay, so are we within this or are we out of it?
So my understanding is the proposal is a 6-foot fence along that side. So that's, and it's not an open, it's not, is it of open construction or not? I don't know.
It's iffy.
It's iffy.
It's ish.
There is spacing between.
But in any case, it would have to be, that part above 4 feet would have to be at least 15 feet from property line. That said, you have your own guidelines, right?
Right. Right.
So it is a possible outcome for you to approve a COA and be fine with something that is not compliant with the UDO. I mean, obviously that causes all kinds of headache. You don't want, well, I don't want to speak for you. Maybe you want that or maybe you don't. But you have full authority to judge on what you look at. And there are there's variances, there's other things that, or simple denial, and they'll do it in the end. So take that as background, that the current proposal, the height does not meet UDO standards, but please consider according to your own criteria.
I might interject, this might be a good time to ask the petitioner if he's willing to withdraw the petition temporarily to talk with planning and get the fence height so it meets zoning and then come back, and we'll look at it again without prejudice. We just don't want to, confuse the issue too much.
I had this petition in here now for a couple of months now, right?
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because the meeting was canceled last time.
Right.
Could we vote on a COA based on the design plans for the fence, regardless of height between 4 and 6 feet?
Is it?
Yeah.
We have questions.
Yeah, we still have questions.
The way I understand it, we aren't to judge zoning, which has been stated. So presumably we could approve this knowing that obviously we're not the zoning commission. So we could even put it within the motion that, I guess I'm asking, could we put within the motion that we approve this, obviously subject to planning approval?
Absolutely.
And that kind of solves the issue.
Yeah, we can do that. Okay.
And in answer to your question, no, we don't really like to approve COAs unless they're specific, because they can't really be
changed,
enforced or changed. They can't be changed and then they can't be enforced. So,
I guess I meant to suggest something more like Ashley was saying.
Yeah.
Understanding that this is going to pen based on zoning.
Can I add, since Noah's newer, and some of the members may know that there have been cases where something has gotten a COA and then either it was known that it wasn't compliant with zoning or it was found out later, they made adjustments based on that, and then it had to come back to you, which is a huge hassle for literally everyone involved, but it worked out in the end. So that's a path that things have taken.
Our advisory member was noting that we often do things with staff approval appended. So you don't have to go through the whole circus again.
So I don't have any comments at this point. I think all my commissioners have made them. I think that we could go ahead and if Ashley wants to make her motion, And then we can vote on that.
I'd make a motion that we approve this certificate of appropriateness with subject to approval of zoning.
I'll second that.
Okay. Roll call?
So Ashley made the motion and
Daniel.
Okay. All right. Marlene Newman,
Yes.
Ernesto Castaneda,
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel,
Yes.
Sam DeSaller.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay. Ashley Johnson,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
William Falk.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 601.
All right. So meet with planning
Okay.
before you do anything else.
Sounds good.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for your time today. Okay. Wow. Let's move on to.
I didn't expect that one to be complicated.
Yeah.
Okay, demolition delays.
Yes, let's move on to
Okay.
demolition delay. And do we have our petitioners with us this evening on demolition delay?
I'm standing in for the petitioner.
Okay,
Sure.
great.
Yeah.
And what's your name, sir?
Doug Titchener.
Oh, Doug.
Alyssa's on the phone.
Oh, okay, very good.
Alyssa's on Zoom.
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you for attending, Alyssa. And you might want to unmute her when we get a chance. So let's move to.
She is unmuted.
Thank you. Let's move to DD 2401.
I'm just going to begin with a little context to show the area we're looking at, because the next, I believe it's
Oh,
the next 7 demolition delays are going to be in the same area. So just these images up here provide some context for what this development called Northern Manors when it was platted, sort of what that area looks like. It's to the west of the stadium. So moving on to demolition delay.
Just like to say, I keep being unmuted. I'm going to stay muted because I have some background.
okay. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay.
Noah.
Demolition delay 24-1. This is for 1303 North Lincoln Street. A petitioner is for core spaces, and they're asking full demolition. Like many of the other buildings we'll see here, this is a small limestone sided structure. It was built in 1952 in what I introduced as the, at that time, newly developing Northern Manor subdivision. This land, which is between what's now Showers Park and IU Memorial Stadium, was annexed by the city of Bloomington in the 1930s and was not developed out until after World War II. In contrast to some of the other homes we'll be seeing today, 1303 North Lincoln features some more non-traditional design elements, including horizontally oriented sliding pane windows and an uncentered entry not clearly visible from the road. Staff recommends release of demolition delay.
All right, thank you. Okay, questions? No questions?
Just want to verify, is this in a historic district?
It's not. It's rated contributing on the state survey.
Sam?
I guess one question I have is, are all of these demolition delays by the same petitioner?
Not everyone on this agenda, but the first 7.
Or 7? Would it be worth going through all of them and?
Any objections?
Point of order question, I suppose. This
Sure.
may be a rookie mistake, but I have a hard stop at 7, so I don't know what happens to your quorum. Hopefully you still have one if I leave.
See, one.
Yeah, we will.
Two.
We're
Yes,
missing
we
one
still-
person, right?
Two.
Two. Yeah, we would still have a quorum if you have to take off. Ashley? Okay. Let's hope not.
Apologize.
Let's hang in there as long as you can.
Of course.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Move on.
Yeah, any other questions? Oh, wait, actually, it was brought up if we want to try and look at these all as one demolition delay.
Right.
So how does our members feel about that? Is that something we'd like to move forward with?
Give us some context, It would give us some context, so I think it would be good.
So all these houses are in the same neighborhood. The neighborhood no longer represents what it was originally built. Many homes have already been torn down and duplexes put in their places. These are the last 7 homes, and they're not contiguous. There are buildings in between each one of them.
Well, they're not
So-
the last ones. There are still some other
Yeah,
houses.
yeah, the
Right.
19th Street ones are still together. But the Lincoln ones, it's been pretty well torn up.
You can see here this is from the Bloomington
Google
Historic
Maps.
Preservation map. That sort of shows the location of contributing and non-contributing resources.
No, I'll pull up Google Maps
Okay.
and then go to 1303.
Let's see. I've got a lot of stuff in the way.
Yeah, then
Street view, would you like?
Street view.
Okay. Let's see. I'm screen sharing. No. I'm gonna have to switch to screen share the whole thing. Yeah.
there we
Okay.
go.
So you see in view here the first 3 1303, 1305, and 1307 North Lincoln. I can give you a little more context of the area
So-
around there. Although I should tell you, I don't believe the view here is current because there's a new apartment complex
Right.
on this corner. Bam, time travel. Okay. Mm-hmm.
1303.
Mm-hmm. It's 1303, 1305, and 1307.
So as we can see, those are the last few houses in that neighborhood that is still existing. Everything else has been apartment buildings and all that good stuff. So maybe we should consider the Lincoln.
street.
Pardon me?
Do it by street.
Yeah, that's what I
Right.
was saying. Let's consider Lincoln properties first, and we group those together, and then we could move on to 19th Street and then Washington Street. All right.
All right.
So, with demolition delays, everybody knows, we only have one choice: either we grant it, or we make it, or we send it to the, we elevate it. We elevate the houses and send it to common council to designate them historic. So, I would entertain a motion to move forward with the demolition of these 3 houses.
John, are we gonna do questions? I just have
Yeah, we can do questions, but it's probably not going to change much, but absolutely.
So, no, did you have a chance, looking through this, I know this was your first time, so I just wanted to see, through city directories or any other resources like census,
Right.
to see who lived in these houses, to
I
make
have.
sure who it was, because I just wanted to check, because it wasn't noted on these, so I just didn't know if you had.
Right.
had
The
a
reason I
chance.
hadn't noted it is it doesn't make it into the PowerPoint. I believe it's in the packet. I mentioned for some of the houses that they switch frequently between owners from census to census or between city directories. So I wasn't able to determine any sort of continuity with owners.
Okay, and no one of notable fame that's been through Monroe or Bloomington that's
Not any
been through
names that I
some of these?
recognized.
Okay.
Thanks, Shannon. Any other questions, Ernesto, Ashley, Jeremy, Bill, Sam, Marlene?
Chris has got a question.
Chris?
Could you consider them all together and ask anyone if they want to take one of them out? Seems to me they would just be, they're all the same.
I think it would be easier to do it by the street, if that's okay, as they're grouped. Any questions from the public? Elisa, do you have any comments for us before we move forward?
I can speak on our behalf. No, I think we agree with staff's recommendations. I think that's what we
Great,
can say.
thank you. Okay, so I need a motion.
Comments?
Comments? Duncan,
Are you gonna
comment?
go around comments?
Comments? Jeremy, comment? Bill, comment? Sam,
It's
comments?
not a district, and this is apartment building. I mean,
Exactly.
that's kind of where it wants to happen.
Okay. Marlene, Daniel,
I think my only one is, I mean, it's a shame because some of the houses are, you know, there's plenty of them now, but at the rate it's going, there's going to be none left just to be torn down time and time again. And I understand we have housing needs, but at the same time, I mean, it's just wholesale clearing out the unique aspects of Bloomington just to clear out. So I think that's unfortunate.
I would tend to agree with you, Daniel. Karen?
I agree with his comment, but
Yeah.
have nothing to add.
Duncan?
Yeah, I mean, I drove through this neighborhood, and you know, it's clear that horse is out of the barn, I guess, to be crude. It started happening when the stadium was built, and now we've actually replaced most of the apartment buildings with newer ones and increased the density, and it's just put these places more and more at risk. It's unfortunate, particularly in this housing development, which was post-war, you know, affordable, minimal, modern housing, a lot of which is fairly unique as a subdivision because they're not all the same, even though now that there are all these, that what's the same is what's replaced them. And it's a tragedy, but it's a lesson to be learned in the sense that we have places all over town where we're being asked to demolish a house, and I can assure you that when we do, this is what's going to follow. And we're going to start to lose neighborhoods. And so this neighborhood's not lost, but it's substantially lost. So I don't think anybody's going to fight these demolitions. But demolition is not the only solution here, and I'm sorry that that's the one that's being taken.
Thank you, Duncan. Chris?
Yeah, driving through, like many of you did, you saw a good bit of stock, but it's out of context. And I talked to Bloomington Restorations, but they can only move one at a time. They can't to delay. I thought, what if there was a program that Hand had where they had land ready to take these? Because they're gonna start popping off the map fast. And here comes 7 of them. We're gonna lose them. They're good houses. They could be reconstructed as affordable housing. And it seems a waste. And we know it is a waste ecologically. It's a waste of embodied energy. It's a waste of being able to put together a little neighborhood of character where people can own homes. And I suggest we start thinking about a program, because here's an asset and it's going to the landfill because we aren't prepared to deal with it. And that could be an alternative when we're looking at demolition delay. Save, move, and then it becomes a real alternative, demolish.
Thank you, Chris. I think that's a very good comment and something that maybe we should look at because we do have some new developments taking place, such as Hopewell. And that might be...
Where they removed a bunch of old houses.
Right.
And built them.
Yeah, I agree, Doug. We were opposed to that too. And we'd asked them to move them and to do something else with them, but they didn't. But, and I think that's a policy thing with this city too, that's what we would look at. Okay, having these discussions, we need to move forward, and shall we allow the demolition to take place of these 3 houses? So if you would give me a motion, please.
Do we need paper?
The paper.
Yeah, I have the paper.
Around here.
No, I've got it right here.
You've got one.
Yeah.
several of them.
So, Sam, you want to read this, or you want me to read it?
I might need help with the addresses.
Yeah, 1303, 1305, and 1307.
Thank you.
North Lincoln.
Today, regarding the properties located at 1303, 1305, 1307 North Lincoln Street, the Historic Preservation Commission declares that it got notice of proposed demolition, and after today's discussion sees no need to review the plans any further and waives the rest of the demolition delay waiting period. The HPC may later recommend the property for historic designation to the Common Council.
All right. Very good. All right, so let's move on to oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
Did we get a second on that?
Yeah. Second.
Marlene? Okay, thank you. Okay. Marlene Newman?
Yes.
Ernesto Castaneda?
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel?
Grudging, yes.
Sam DeSaller?
Yes.
Ashley Johnson?
Yes.
John Saunders?
Yep.
William Falk?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, terrific. So let's move on to DDD 2404, 1310 North Washington, and 1320 North Washington.
Again, this is one reason I'm glad we're doing these in bunches. I had mixed up the addresses on these initially, so it's going to be consistent in the slideshow, and I'm sorry if it isn't in the packet. 1320 North Washington Street was built in 1955, and it's a massed ranch that is zoned two-family commercial. There's a finished limestone sided basement and clapboard siding on the second story. It features distinctive modern characteristics, such as its shed roof, picture windows, and wide limestone chimney. Over time, some of the windows and doors have been replaced, but the building is overall only slightly altered. Like the other houses up for consideration with this development, it is rated contributing on the IHSSI survey and is not located in a historic district. Then we have 1310 North Washington Street, another massed ranch built in 1955. It is zoned as a residential two-family dwelling. The first level is a finished basement with cinder block walls. The second story overhangs the ground floor and is topped with a salt box roof with a gabled entrance perpendicular to the road. The house is larger and more, modern in design than most of the other houses in the Northern Manor subdivision, and it is one of the few that is not currently zoned commercial.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to Ernesto.
No questions.
Okay.
No questions.
Ashley, Jeremy, Bill, Sam,
No questions.
Marlene,
No questions.
Daniel, Karen, Duncan.
Nope.
Let's do the comments. No comments? Bill?
I got a much softer spot for these because they're just,
They're nice.
they're lovely. But we can't do this all ourselves. We need help from the neighborhood, help from the community, and help from the administration. And as Duncan said, horses left the barn.
All right, thank you, Sam. Marlene?
I agree with Sam. Kind of like these houses here. So,
Okay.
and there's nothing in the history of these houses that would make them in any way.
Right.
Not that I could find.
And Daniel?
Same as my comments from the last one.
Okay. And Karen? And Duncan? Okay, and I don't have any comments. So let's,
I practiced once already.
yeah, exactly.
Today, regarding the properties located at 1310 and 1320 North Washington Street, the Historic Preservation Commission declares that it got notice of the proposed demolition and after today's discussion sees no need to review the plans any further and waives the rest of the demolition delay waiting period, the HPC may later recommend the property for historic designation to the Common Council.
And so, roll. Second. Thank you.
Marlene Newman,
Yes.
Ernesto Castaneda,
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel,
Same grudging yes.
Sam DeSaller,
Yes.
Ashley Johnson,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
William Falk.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right. Okay. Let's move on now to DDD 24-06 and DD 2407, 216 and 218 East 19th Street.
Both of these houses have unoriginal additions. You could say, judging by our usual standards, that one of the additions is perhaps more tasteful and well distinguished. But that notwithstanding, do we not have a date on this one? Both of these houses were built in the 1950s as part of the Northern Manor subdivision. But they retain most of their original character-defining features, with some exceptions, including these new additions and some replacement doors.
What's the zoning of these houses, Noah?
I believe these are also zoned commercial.
Okay. Very good. All right. Questions, Ernesto?
No, thank you. It's just-
Ashley?
No questions.
Jeremy? Bill? Sam? Marlene? Daniel? Karen? Duncan? Comments? Ernesto?
It's just hard to, it's like we recognize that they have some value or a value, but is this thing over and over? There's nothing we can do from here. We need support from other groups to be able to. I know I'm speaking to the choir, but it's just hard to see this. That's all.
Ashley? Comments? Jeremy?
It's painful to see cute little houses like this to go, but it's, they don't represent the neighborhood anymore.
Right. Sam?
Not gonna beat that dead horse out of the barn.
Marlene? Okay. Daniel?
I just agree with what Ernesto said.
Okay. And Karen?
Same.
All right. Duncan?
Yeah, I guess I would only add that this is a result of a rezone that as a city, we purposefully did to create a commercial zone. And this is what happens when you take a residential zone and turn it into a business opportunity. One way to stop it is to not rezone. And certainly not to preempt zoning by doing it before anything else happens. It's a difficult question if you're a planner, but it does play into this result.
I agree. Thank you, Duncan. And I agree with Chris that somehow we need to figure out a way to be able to move some of these houses in the future. Chris, you had a comment?
I just wanted to further flesh out this idea. The timing of demolition can be dealt with by moving and mothballing. So if you have a zone, if you have an area that you know you're going to put those houses on, even if there were 7, you could move them and mothball them while the foundations are built for these houses, and then move them on. So, if this was a hand program and we had the land for that and it was ready, these could all be saved.
I think that's great, Chris. Thank you very much. So Sam?
Today, regarding the properties located at 216 and 218 East 19th Street, the Historic Preservation Commission declares that it got notice of proposed demolition, and after today's discussion sees no need to review the plans any further, and waives the rest of the demolition delay waiting period. The HPC may later recommend the property for historic designation to the Common Council.
Thank you, Sam. All right, Eddie. We need a second. Marlene, second.
Marlene Newman,
Yeah.
Ernesto Castaneda,
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel,
Yeah, unfortunate, yes.
Sam DeSaller,
Yes.
Ashley Johnson, John Saunders,
Yes.
William Falk.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, thank you. All right, let's move on to demolition delay, number DD 2408, 409 North Roosevelt. Is our petitioner with us?
Yes.
All right, thank you for coming.
Okay. This building is a 720 square foot national home built in 1945 with a picture window and replacement aluminum sashes. The building is in good condition and alterations have been minor. It exists in a neighborhood that consists mostly of post-war homes, most of which have undergone some degree of alteration. In 2014, 409 North Roosevelt was rated as contributing on the Indiana Historic Sites and Structures Inventory and has undergone some minor alterations.
All right, thank you very much. Okay. No questions? Ashley, Jeremy, Bill?
Is this a one-off?
This one is a one-off.
Okay. That's my question.
All right, Marlene? Daniel? Karen? Duncan? Okay, I don't have any questions. Let's do our comments. Ernesto? Ashley? Jeremy? Bill? Sam? Marlene? Daniel? Karen? No. Duncan? Any comments from the public? Okay. Any comments from our Zoom folks? All right. So, Sam?
Today regarding the property located at 409 North Roosevelt Street. The Historic Preservation declares it got notice of proposed demolition and after today's discussion sees no need to review the plans any further and waives the rest of the demolition delay waiting period. The HPC may later recommend the property for historic designation to the Common Council.
Thank you, Sam. We need a second. Marlene, you're seconding. Okay.
Marlene Newman,
Staying on this one.
okay. Ernesto Castaneda, Daniel Schlegel,
Yes.
Sam DeSaller,
Yes.
Ashley Johnson,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
William Falk.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0-1.
Thank you. Okay, let's move on to our final demolition delay.
Okay.
Number DD 24-09.
2409. Petitioner is Alex Rosenberg, and he is recommending full demolition. This is on 2008 West 3rd Street, so sort of near where the train tracks cross 3rd. The site consists of 3 commercial buildings, one of which, the one pictured here, is over 50 years old and is rated as contributing in the Indiana Historic Sites and Structures Inventory. The one-story concrete block storage building at the rear of the lot was constructed in 1940 and has undergone few alterations. The building has served a number of businesses over the years, including many years as belonging to a furniture repair company, and subsequent uses including a hot tub retailer and tile storage. Little remains of the structure's historic context, which has been significantly altered by the expansion of the I-69 corridor and new development on Bloomington's far west side over the past few decades. The other buildings on the lot were built in the 1990s and from most angles obscure the contributing structure from the road.
All right, thanks, Noah. Any questions, Ernesto? Ashley, Jeremy?
Just confirming it's not in the historic district.
It's not.
Bill? Sam?
It's just for this building, not the other
Right,
buildings.
just this one.
Yeah, thank you.
There will be 2 other demolitions on the lot, but those are buildings that were built in the 90s.
Thank you.
Marlene?
Thanks for clarifying, Sam. So I'm good, Sam. John.
Okay. Karen? Duncan? All right. Comments? Ernesto? Ashley? Jeremy? Bill? Sam? Marlene? Daniel? Karen? Duncan? Our public? Okay, anybody on line with us have any comments? And I just want to be clear, this is a commercial property, is that
Right.
correct? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Sam?
Today regarding the property located at 2008 West 3rd Street, the HPC Historic Preservation Commission declares that it got notice of the proposed demolition, and after today's discussion sees no need to review the plans any further and waives the rest of the demolition delay waiting period. The HPC may later recommend the property for historic designation to the Common Council.
All right. Thank you. Betty?
Marlene Newman,
Yes.
Ernesto,
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel,
Yes.
Sam DeSaller,
Yes.
Ashley Johnson,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Yes.
William Falk.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, perfect. All right,
All right.
we've gotten through all this, so let's move on to Lower Cascade nomination
Okay.
presentation. And
Which-
this will go to City Council.
I have a separate presentation which was prepared by my predecessor, Gloria Colum. Let's see, where's...
Yeah, you got it up there.
Yeah, it's... I got like a bar in the way. Okay, great. Okay. This is for the local historic district nomination for Lower Cascades Park. Staff recommends approval of designation. The petitioner is the Bloomington Historic Preservation Commission, and this is Lower Cascades Park, located on what is Old State Road 37. The district's hydrology centers on Cascades Creek, which is located in the bottomlands. The stream flows north and drains into Griffey Creek, approximately a half-mile north of the district. The stretches of Cascades Creek that are within the district have been channelized, and its bottom is primarily bedrock. The creek's minor tributaries drain the uplands and valley slopes and cut to the bedrock, resulting in outcroppings and small waterfalls. This is from the recent National Register of Historic Places nomination, which is currently undergoing state review. The park contains works progress administration constructed resources, including stream retaining walls, 2 shelters, a well house, 29 stone picnic tables, a campfire circle, 3 wishing well drinking fountains, and except for certain portions of the stream's retaining wall, the WPA resources are primarily constructed with rusticated limestone ashlar, laid in common bond, and represents the WPA's use of regional materials in its projects. The Lower Cascades District is currently going through the nomination process to be included in the National Register of Historic Places as part of the larger district that also includes the golf courses and Upper Cascades. The following ratings are based on Hal's survey and the Historic American Landscape Survey and the National Register of Historic Places nomination prepared by Christopher Boss and J.P. Hall for the Parks and Recreation Department in 2021. Contributing sites and structures include the Monroe County Bridge number 413, built in 1926, 4 metal and concrete steel pedestrian bridges from the 1960s, 24 WPA limestone picnic tables from 1936, a wishing well drinking fountain from 1936, also WPA, the waterfall shelter, 1936 WPA, a well house, 1936 WPA, limestone benches, WPA, 1936, a concrete pedestrian bridge built around 1935, and Cascades Park bathhouse constructed by the WPA in 1938. Non-contributing structures include a pedestrian bridge built in the 2000s, a playground built around 1980, and another playground built in 2006. Staff believes that this meets the Cascades Park Historic District meets local criteria for significance, including 1A, for having significant character, interest, or value as part of the development, heritage, and cultural characteristics of the city, state, and nation. The natural geographic beauty of the area led to the creation of Cascades Park by the city of Bloomington in 1924. James Kaufman wrote in his thesis titled Cascades Park, a Preservation and Recreation Development Plan, Bloomington, Indiana. The original intent was to preserve a beautiful natural site. 1C exemplifies cultural, political, economic, social, or historical heritage in the community. Lower Cascades Park has been maintained by the city of Bloomington and enjoyed by both its residents and visitors alike for almost 100 years. During this time, countless memories, picnics, races, and peaceful days have been enjoyed by community members. The history of Cascades Park has been documented in different articles, documentaries, and even a master's thesis in 1984. In 1997, Bloomington Restoration Inc. News published an article providing information on the history of Cascades Park, stating that in 1921, however, the owners of the stone and gravel quarry at the southern edge of Cascades planned to expand it northward along the highway and creek bed. In response, the city's first park board was established and chartered to protect the beauty of the southern part of the state. Criterion 2G exemplifies the built environment in an area of history characterized by a distinctive architectural style. The WPA structures, including 2 shelters, picnic tables, and wishing wells, were built during the 1930s as part of the federal initiatives to alleviate the economic hardships affecting the entire population during the Great Depression. The city of Bloomington qualified for funds due to the economic impact felt directly by the quarries and other industries. Funds were requested for different initiatives throughout Bloomington, but a sizable portion was allocated to the construction of various structures in both the upper and lower Cascades, including 2 main roofed activity structures, picnic tables, wishing wells, amongst others. And here are some of the contributing structures. WPA's shelter house, another shelter house, Sycamore Shelter, the well house. There's numerous limestone benches. 1960s, I believe, pedestrian bridge, stone picnic tables. Anything you'd like me to go back to?
No, I think that's
Okay.
fine, Noah, thank you. So we need a vote to send this on to city council, is that correct?
That's right.
So, do we have any questions at this point, Sam?
I've got a comment, but no question.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Just wondering about the sequencing of this in the National Register nomination. Like,
Right.
how did those align? That one was several years ago, and then this one
Right.
popped up. I was just kind of curious.
Well, the job I just had actually was doing National Register review for the state of Indiana, and because of the backlog, that process could take over a year. And especially with a district like this, there could be a lot of back and forth with comments. So the process at the city level tends to be a little quicker because it undergoes review of one staff member and then the commission.
So, Noah, do you know when it will move forward with the state and national? I'm just asking.
I'm
Noah.
almost certain that it's going to be this year. It's near the front of the queue. And the state nomination is going to be voted on by the State Historic Preservation Board. They usually agree with the SHPO office's findings. And after passing the board's review, it's usually anywhere from, I'd say, a few weeks to get approval from the National Park Service.
Great, thank you. Any other comments or questions at this point?
Mhm.
Yes. Ah, Charlotte? Yes.
My name is Charlotte Zibble, and I became a member of the city council in 1971. And one of our many goals was to begin historic preservation with this community, because we did not have an official board. And that's evolved over time, become more and more official. But it was clearly part of that council vision of this community as a community that had many historic things, factors that made this a really wonderful place to live and to be. So I go way back, not as back as far as the park, but almost. Anyway, as time has gone by, I just witnessed something interesting here. The death of a neighborhood. And we can't forget that that's what's happening. And many people who said, I've always loved Bloomington and those neighborhoods, but they're gone. They're going. So anyway, this park especially, we have small children, and I loved it going down there. It was just always beautiful down there. Calming, yes, we ran around, the children ran around. And it's been maintained quite well. And is an important part of the community, a haven in a way. And I frankly was amazed that there was such a push without any real rationale for it, of trying to close this up so it would be inaccessible in effect to a lot of people, including, unfortunately, my aging self. But I'm here to urge you to support this historic designation. It seems to me that would be a gift back. One thing you could do as a make the community forgive you for killing a neighborhood would be keeping an open passage there. And I don't think, it speaks for itself. Do you have any questions for me? Why in the world would I do this? I really hope you will pass it and keep it. It's one of our treasures, and it needs to be maintained. I'm living downtown now, which is nice, but I was driving around the city the other day. I don't drive, don't worry. but I'm looking around thinking there are a lot of ugly spots in this community now, ugly. And I don't like ugly, I like beauty. And I think this is a beauty that we can't let go and have to maintain as much as possible. And I ask for your positive indulgence on this. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
No, I don't think so. Do any of our members have any questions? All right. Thank you, Charlotte, for coming this evening. Anybody else want to speak? Yes?
My name is Carol Canfield. I'm a lifelong resident of Bloomington. I currently live in Blue Ridge. I am heartsick at what I've sat through the previous hour, seeing these neighborhood buildings approved to be demolished. I concur with Chris. We need to save these things. We're getting inundated with some of the ugliest buildings I've ever seen in my life. It's changing the character of the town I grew up in. This is an opportunity to preserve something that has been special to me my entire life. I've played in the creek, you know, we've all been part of that. This is historical, it needs to be preserved. It's a piece of Bloomington that we absolutely have to protect. And I would urge you to give it this designation, to pass on to the city council, and believe me, we're going to fight for it if it passes to the city council. We are very concerned about the road. They have closed it before. We met with Parks and Rec. We brought people who cannot traverse the park by foot or on bike. I've got a 27-speed bike in my shed that I can no longer ride. I used to walk 7 miles a day. I'm lucky to walk 20 feet without feeling like my legs are going out from under me. I cannot visit this park on foot anymore. I go down weekly and I park in the handicap spot across from Sycamore, or not Sycamore, Waterfall Shelter. And I just look at the beauty. I grew up with that. I played in the creek. We drove across the creek to get to the shelter house, to have picnics, reunions, you name it. We can't lose this. And we've got to keep the road open also. This is just a very important part. It's history. We got to keep the road open so people like me who can't walk it anymore and enjoy the park can at least drive through and have that peaceful time that calms everybody down when they drive through it. I can't stress enough how much this park means to me, and to keep it open and to protect it by giving it this designation. Maybe more attention will be paid to it in terms of protecting it, keeping the homeless camps out, whatever we need to do, but to preserve the beauty of it. It's unlike anything else in our city. So I would urge you, please pass this.
Thank you so very much. Yes, sir.
Paul Kern from Blue Ridge. I had just a question and a comment. If you pass this today, does that include the road as well, or not?
The road won't be under our control.
Okay.
But the landscaping and everything else that will be taking place is under our control.
But not the road?
But not the road.
Okay, so
That
the
is
vote
still-
today is not about the road?
Right.
Okay, it's about the place
Right.
around it. Okay.
And I want to make it clear that it's the commission's position that we want to see the road stay open. But we don't have purview over that at this point.
Sure. Now, just a clarification, and thank you very much.
Yes, you're very
Thank you.
welcome. Okay. Chris?
Yeah, I would further clarify that. Should the road be moved, should there be extra wideness put into that park, we can control, I suggest, what happens to the road. We don't control the use of it, but we could have some influence on how it is rearranged, how it affects the landscaping. And I have a small statement, I hope you'll indulge me. I've been researching Lower Cascades for a while now, and the more I researched, the more I found out that this is really about the road. Surprisingly, the gently curving road by Cascades is actually older than the city of Bloomington itself. The south half of the road and the park has the beautiful creek views and the falls that have been a landmark for people entering Bloomington since its founding. The road became an official post road in 1825 when Bloomington was 7 years old. The state seminary was 1 year old with 10 students. Early mail went by horseback, but soon stagecoaches and mail coaches traveled the dirt road to our new capital, Indianapolis. The North Pike was likely a footpath and trail long before it became an early road. Civil War soldiers walked that road and watered horses at the old creek ford. Early seminary students and community members would make the carriage ride to picnic by the cool shade in the falls. In the national optimism after World War I, in the spirit of the national and state park movement, Bloomington formed a parks board and bought the property in 1924, saving it from becoming a quarry. So Bloomington's first park was also Bloomington's first historic preservation action. Frederick Law Olmsted designed Dunwoods around this time, and his vision of park space large enough for the enjoyment of broad expanses of scenery by all modes of transportation fit this wooded valley with a roadside creek and waterfall perfectly. The automobile age needed roads, and this segment by Cascades Creek became part of the old Dixie Highway. The Depression followed soon after the park was created, but that brought later funding for shelters, tables, walls for the creek. The local quarries built a drive-through gateway of stone to welcome all to the city. This nearly unchanged segment of road and natural scenery formed by glacial melt 10,000 years ago would still be recognizable to Bloomington's first settlers, even the Native Americans who hunted this area countless years before. The Bloomington Herald Telephone reported at the time, the new park site is located down the North Pike, one of the most beautiful drives that can be found in the entire country. At the park's dedication ceremony in 1924, a prominent Parks Board member said this, "I am proud of our Bloomington today, and we have a right to be. In the early years, times without number, we used to drive down the North Pike through what is now Cascades Park, enjoying to the fullest this spot, and ever marveling at the lavish beauty bestowed by nature, and ever dreaming of the way and means sometime by which it could be permanently preserved for all time to come. This dream has now been realized. That was 100 years ago. Now, 100 years later, we have another opportunity to preserve this wonderful, natural, man-made resource. Perhaps 100 years from now, someone will look back on our actions gratefully as they enjoy Bloomington's first park's 200th anniversary." I support this nomination.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it. Okay, so we need a motion to forward this to City Council. And second? Second. All right. Eddie?
Marlene Newman,
Yes.
Ernesto Castaneda,
Yes.
Daniel Schlegel,
A very happy yes.
Sam DeSaller,
Yes.
John Saunders,
Absolutely.
William Falk.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-0.
Excellent. All right. Very good. Very good. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for hanging in there.
All right, so let's move on to our old business, and we'll try to make this fairly quick so we can get out of here fairly soon. Actually, I think we're doing pretty darn good.
We really have.
So, Noah, let's bring us up to date on 615 First Street.
615 First Street, the redevelopment commission has been seeking bidders who could relocate the house from the Hopewell development site. This is pursuant to a conversation that the commission had had about a demolition delay that had been placed on the house.
Okay. Steve, do you have any additional comments from us with BRI and that property? Aren't you working with?
We're making an attempt, yes.
Okay.
I just wonder, how's the demolition delay process play out at this point? How much time is left, and if you've received all your extensions?
I extended the delay till March 9th.
Thank you, Anna.
And we are asking for bids on the property for potential movers to be in by Monday for consideration.
Okay, terrific, thank you. All right, Noah, let's bring us up to North Lincoln Street.
Okay. On January 25th, the commission voted to nominate the house at 615 North Lincoln Street as a local historic district. A public meeting and vote on sending the designation to Common Council is planned for the next HPC meeting on March 14th.
Terrific. Any questions? Comments?
About this or about anything?
Well, we can do our commissioner comments.
Right.
So you can
That's
say
coming up.
anything you want, Sam.
At the next meeting, I'd appreciate an update on 605 Southwest notes of violations and fining, and if they are making any progress towards putting the roof back on.
They took a roof off?
Sorry?
They just took a roof off?
Yeah, we designated it and then they ripped the original roof off. And it's been 2 years,
Really?
so.
Could be a problem.
Yeah. Well, they put on another roof, so that was something that was good. Ish.
Putting on a roof is expensive. What did they take?
I just have one thing. At the bottom of the thing, I think, is the next meeting the 7th or the 14th?
The next meeting, I'm sorry, that was another correction for this agenda. The next meeting is on the 14th.
Okay, and I just wanted to say that that's in the middle of spring break again. Just saying.
Would anybody on the commission prefer to move the date of the next meeting? Okay.
Can we see who might attend? I mean, you have to figure out, if you're gonna, you need a quorum, so I know I'm not gonna be here.
Sorry,
Okay.
guys.
We were discussing, because the next meeting is currently scheduled for March 14th, which is IU's spring break. Do we want to move that to a different day?
How many of us will be out of town? One?
I won't be
Two?
available. I'll be in town.
Three?
I just won't be.
Two
What day is it?
two voting
March
members.
14th.
Yeah, March 14th.
I won't be here.
You won't be here either, so that's 3 of our commissioners. Okay. So, because we have some timelines with some of our other things going on, I don't want to just have one meeting in March. I would be open to adjusting the date for the March 14th meeting, either sooner or later, which would work out for everybody.
We cannot do the March 7th date due to public hearing notices. It has to have 10 days in the paper, and it has to have lead time to get into the
Okay.
paper, so that date will not work for the public hearing.
All right. So what's that leave us?
What's the earliest date that will work?
Yeah,
It looks like the 21st would be the next option.
the 21st of March.
Well, we were,
Isn't that a regularly scheduled meeting anyway?
Sorry.
So we couldn't do like, yeah, that would be,
We do 2 weeks in a row, the 21st and the 28th potentially.
the 14th has already been noticed,
Okay.
It has not been noticed yet.
so
The 14th is the week of spring break that they're saying we don't have a quorum.
I understand that, but
Okay, it was,
my question was, what's the soonest we can have another meeting in terms of the notice? It's not in spring break.
And if it's on a Thursday, the 21st would be the
Well,
next.
what's our next date? Noticing that we could have a meeting, what would be our earliest? Could we do it as early as, let's say, March 18th? I know we can't do it the 7th because we don't have enough notice time.
When's spring break over?
Well,
11th through the 15th is the week of
I'm sorry.
Monday through Friday is the 11th through the 15th.
It has to have 3 business days notice prior to putting it in the paper, and then it needs another 10 days, so there's no way to get it in.
And the newspaper on the launch as well. I think they have a submittal.
You would have, if it's the same as the timelines for the paper for the planning users,
Yeah.
it would have had to be in yesterday
Yeah.
at 5.
It's, they have Wednesday's submission dates.
For Monday. no.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Sorry, you already said that. I apologize.
Yeah, our newspapers cut back on, or they've made their requirements for submission a little more stringent.
Got it.
Dawn, I don't know that there won't be a quorum. I don't know that there won't be a quorum because there are people here who might actually be able to attend.
Well, why don't we go ahead and leave it scheduled as it is, and if we don't have a quorum, then we can change it at that point. And if we don't have enough people for the 14th meeting,
Is there something that is like critical though?
I'm not aware what's been turned in, what we have to look at yet.
Was there anything critical on that 615 North Lincoln?
With Lincoln Street. How long is that under interim protection for? March 7th.
Anna? Well, yeah.
I'm sorry.
615 North Lincoln. What's our timeline on it, do you know?
It's placed under interim protection until the council can act, so.
Okay, so if we,
just kind of-
if we move the meeting or we have a problem, that'll still be okay?
That one is fine,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
The demo delay on the 615 West First Street expires March 9th if we don't
Right.
act. But we are actively trying to.
Do something about that. Let's see, I don't think we can extend that one.
That's been extended to.
Right, so if we don't act on it, it goes away. Okay, very good. So let's just keep our meeting for the 14th. If we don't have a quorum, then stuff can move forward until our next meeting, if that's acceptable to everybody. Okay,
Okay.
terrific.
Any more commissioner comments?
I just
Yes?
want to remind people, in case they don't know, that our fellow Commissioner Liz Mitchell's film about the West Baden Colored Church restoration, history and restoration, is being shown on WTIU next week, once on Sunday at
6 p.m.
6 p.m. and the following, next Thursday at 8 p.m.
It's good.
It's really, really good. Several of us have seen
She's in
it.
I think we're very lucky to have Liz.
I know, she's giving a Q&A. She's probably done.
Sam?
I'd like to say welcome.
Yes.
Yes.
We're really glad to have you here.
Yes, we are.
All right.
All right, public comments.
Any public comments for us this evening or anything else? No? All right, great. Our meeting's adjourned.